Hello everyone. Hello everyone. You are someone and I am someone else, and today we're going to be talking about New Mexico and California. Now, I am not really New Mexican, but I did live in California at the time in my life, right? And what is so disappointing about these two states? Why are they disappointing to me today? What did these two states do? And I addressed it in my last video, but I didn't really address it. I only brought them up. I didn't actually say what they did. So, there were these two governors, right? I did bring up the governors. I didn't bring up what they did exactly, but I brought up the governors. One governor, the Californian governor, put an 11% to 20% tax on all the firearms, every single one. Basically making it impossible for poor people to buy a firearm that's like $500. Use that at a $600 price. It's now $600 to $500 for a gun. Kind of stupid that you don't care. I mean, it's not as bad. It's still a barrier, though, to get guns. Like, you're still sort of infringing upon the idea of getting a gun. However, it was passed through Congress, California Congress, so I'll say that was a lot better than what New Mexico did. New Mexico, oh my God. Supreme Court even said this is unconstitutional. Supreme Court of New Mexico said it was unconstitutional. Ninth Circuit said it was unconstitutional. What New Mexico did was they had an executive order. And executive orders cannot violate the federal Second Amendment. They can't, right? Theoretically, that's not supposed to happen, right? But the governor said, you know what, we're unsafe. We got to do this 30-day thing where you're not allowed to bear arms. You can keep arms in your home, not allowed to bear them outside your home. So, just imagine, right? You're in the state of New Mexico. Now you're all walking targets. The only people who are going to follow, and the governor said, the only people who are going to follow, not going to follow us are criminals. Then what's the freaking point? If I guess it's convenient that you can arrest anybody bearing arms, but come on, really? That's unconstitutional. We all know it. All the judges have said it. You're basically taking away the natural right of protection even outside their own properties. Your person is your own property as well, in my opinion, so you should be able to bear arms wherever it's a public place for the most part. If you're on the road, you should be able to bear arms. If it's, let's say it's a private warehouse, like an Amazon warehouse or something, okay. I can kind of see, you can't really be bearing arms that much. Maybe, I don't know. But, in my opinion, you should bear arms. And you should always have one of those hoists, in my opinion, with a gun. Now, I don't own any guns, but if I was going to own a gun, right, I would always get, like, a little hoist where it's, like, locked. And so, like, if someone took my gun, they couldn't unlock it, but I could unlock it and then, do whatever, right? So, I understand, but if the governor is going to do something like, we're afraid that the guns are going to be out in the streets or whatever, right? They're afraid that somebody's going to take your pistol. Let's say you have a pistol in your pocket. Yeah, why not just get that little thing that locks away when someone tries to grab it at a certain angle? You grab it, and you're better off than the person who was trying to take your weapon. I don't understand. You have to make common sense when you do something like gun control, in my opinion. I think gun control is just the way to control the population. What's the difference between a slave and a citizen, right? What's the difference, right? A slave can't protect themselves. They can't protect their labor. They can't protect their values. A citizen can. They got a weapon. That's the difference between a slave and a citizen. And California calls them civilians. So it's like, those are little silly civilians. They don't need a gun. So, Governor Newsom, man, even though he did everything for the most part throughout the Constitution, I think he went through Congress to do it. I don't know if it was an executive order. I think it was just a bill he signed. Because it looked like it went through Congress. It looked like a bill he actually signed. He signed 3 different bills. The problem is, you've just completely made it unaffordable for some people to afford guns. It was already unaffordable in the first place with all these taxes, but it's getting even worse. And now you want to stamp every bullet and make all this tracking, and it's just going to be a whole lot worse. And there's no incentive to stop the criminals from going across borders and taking guns. There's no incentive to stop them from stealing. They literally decriminalize anything under $900 of goods in California. It's just sad what that state has become. I used to live there, right? I used to be Californian. I loved California. I still do love California. I love the geography. But I looked at my home street that I used to live in. There are tents now. There are tents where I used to live. This is not good. I don't want to see homeless people where I used to live. Like, I am so disappointed and so sad at the state of California. I feel so horrible because the people don't need that. People don't need Governor Newsom, whittling down on them or whatever. They need to be able to stand up for themselves and say, no, Governor Newsom, that bill that you signed, while it did pass through Congress, it still violates the fact that you infringed upon the price point that I can't pay for this gun. I could easily afford it, or I could afford it way better if you didn't put a 20% tax on the freaking gun. Like, Californians need to stand up for themselves. I don't know. Maybe most Californians don't own guns. They probably don't. They're very nice people in California. I love California. There's many immigrants there. There was 26 different languages in my elementary school. I was living in California. I mean, it's a very beautiful place. They got the beautiful valleys, San Francisco valleys that I don't know what they're called exactly. They have the prison across the bay. They have Alcatraz Island, which I didn't see it that often, but the Bay Area is so beautiful. And the fact that it's being ruined by a bunch of corrupt politicians because they don't give the proper incentives to their people. In fact, they give the opposite. They give the criminals more incentive than their own citizens. I am just sorry. This is bad. This is bad. Californians should be voting to lock these people up. Lock up at least the criminals anyway, that are robbing and looting all these stores. Look, there's somebody who has to go and they have to get stakes, right? The stakes are chained up. There's chains around the stakes. They have to ask the clerk, like a little kid, like, hey, can you unlock the chain of that stake? It's becoming more and more expensive to shop. It's taking more time. It's the security is they're gonna have to pay for more security, so your goods are gonna go up. Rents are gonna get higher because they keep paying teachers way more than what they're worth. And soon, California will just be like Argentina. They already have the political structure to become Argentina. It's just a matter of time until they actually do have the hyperinflation Argentina does. And that is what worries me about California. I mean, I love California, but it's just very sad. And I can speak more on California than New Mexico. I love New Mexico too. I went to White Sands National Park. It's a very beautiful state. I haven't lived on the western half of the United States for a long time now. I mean, East Coast sucks compared to the West Coast. I will say that the geography of the West Coast, western half is way better in my opinion. Go to the western half of the United States. Stay the freak away from the East Coast. The East Coast is a mess. East Coast is a giant highway. That's all I think of the East Coast. It's an insult to mankind. The East Coast is a giant highway. I mean, it's more developed than the West Coast. That's why, but I don't know. I like the frontier. I like the western half of the United States so much better. But the people there need to stick up for themselves, but they're not going to do that. They're too nice, and I know Californians. They have a high immigration rate. They're very nice and very, very friendly people, but I feel like that lets them get taken advantage, like Governor Newsom or the New Mexican governor. I forgot her name, but I don't care. He doesn't deserve a name because he keeps violating people's fundamental right to protection, self-protection. Like, that's just dumb. Anyway, you are someone, I'm someone else, talking about why I do not like the governors of New Mexico and California and how they are pushing us more into slavery than civilianry, or whatever you call it, citizenship. Goodbye.